Hello and welcome to another edition of Engineering and You. In case you are just watching this program for the very first time, Engineering and You is a platform where we discuss, interact at a very high level, talking about science, technology, engineering and mathematics, basically to encourage young Nigerians who want to go into engineering, educate the public on what engineering does, and get you know how it is being done. My name is Tunde Olaniro, and this week's edition is going to be very, very interactive as usual. And we want to say a big thank you to Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilon, FNSC, for the support in terms of gifts for our winners on this program. And then today we have our question for the week as usual. And the question for the week is, for today, is nuclear sizes are expressed in what units? Nuclear sizes are expressed in what units? If you know the answer, you can call us and tell us, or you can go to our Facebook page at Ogtv or at our YouTube channel at Ogtv Abeokuta to get your answers to us. But one thing I will assure you is, if you get the answer correctly, you are going to go home with something, courtesy Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilon, FNSC. Now that has been done, we will take a very short break, and when we return, I'll let you know who my guest is, and we'll take it off from there. Welcome back, and my guest for today is Engineer Dr. OLUSANJO AKANJI BAMGBOYE. He was born over 7 decades ago in the city of Abeokuta. He attended St. Anne's Primary School, Ibara Abeokuta, where he obtained primary school certificate grade A in 1962, and then Comprehensive High School Ayetoro, Egbado, where he attended West African School Certificate Grade 1, 1967, Higher School Certificate 1969, and General Certificate of Education Advanced Level 1970. He then proceeded to University of Ife, now OAU, to obtain his BSc Honours in Agricultural Engineering in 1974. And worthy of note is that he was the best graduating student with a CGPA of 4.4 out of 5. He later proceeded to the University of California, Davis, where he obtained MSc in Irrigation and Drainage Engineering in 1978 and Doctor of Philosophy in Civil Engineering in 1983, specializing in complex turbulent flow. Fast forward, my guest, Dr. BAMGBOYE, he returned home and served as lecturer in the Agricultural Engineering Department of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, from 1983 to 1986, and later joined the service of National Water Resource Institute as an assistant director and head of Water Resource Education Center of the institute in 1986. He rose through the rank to become the deputy director of the institute in 1991 and responsible for all the training programs of the institute. Going a little bit further, Dr. BAMGBOYE was actively involved in several projects funded by development partners such as UNESCO, UNICEF, JICA, UNIDO, UNDP, and several others. Worthy of note was the engagement in the upgrading of NWRI in UNESCO Regional Center 2 for Integrated River Basin Management. I can go on and on. If I sit down with this profile, I'm sure that the whole of the program will be basically on the profile. I want to say welcome, Engineer Dr. OLUSANJO BAMGBOYE.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Yes, sir. Like I said some things before you came on set. Why did you choose to go into agricultural engineering as your first degree?
Thank you very much. In fact, agricultural engineering was just introduced into Nigeria in 1969-70, Nigerian University. And when I read the essence of the profession, that is how to encourage technology in agriculture, how to ensure that agriculture is enhanced by engineering knowledge. That got me interested. And we are the first set of agric engineering in this country. Wow. It was introduced by IFE to the American University of Wisconsin. So it was a good experience.
So how far has that course or that arm of engineering affected our daily lives, especially in terms of putting food on the table, food security?
In fact, that is the real essence of the whole course. It is into different divisions or sections. One of the ones that everybody gets into every day is the area of processing. Food processing was part of agric engineering. So even the Maggi cube you use, the tomato paste you use, any other food you see processed, package, is a result of agric engineering. Now, not to talk of even the production. The problem was hard labor in production was a big problem in agriculture, and also small scale farming. So agricultural engineering came with technology, like automatic harvesting, planting mechanically, harvesting mechanically, processing mechanically. I remember there was a time we had to do a project on Erimo, rice mill. How to process the Erimo is upland rice near Elisha, and we at Ife went there to help them to process it right from the time they harvest to final product. And it was a good experience for both the staff and students. I was a staff there.
There was a time I visited a factory,
yeah,
an agric engineering factory, where somebody fabricated a machine that can pound yam.
Of course.
Now, though after a little interrogation with the person, we discovered that the person could not commercialize, and that idea died in that lab. How do you think that, because we know that so many inventions are into agricultural engineering, how do you think that this can, so that it won't just die on the shelf, it will be commercialized?
The problem of technology is that technology is comprehensive and it has processes. Somebody will develop the idea, somebody will develop the machine, and that is at the pilot stage. Somebody has to commercialize it, just like you said. And this is where we are lacking in this country. The area to bring into the industrial use, and for the industrialists to show interest. The pounding machine you are talking about, in fact, was first developed at that agric engineering department, Ife, by Professor G.M. Konjola, one of our founding staff. General Gowon, as head of state, visited Ife in 1972 and ate pounded yam produced by that machine.
Wow.
Because that was our pride.
But why?
But then to now pick it up into production, the next thing you could see was the Japanese came and pick it up, or the Chinese, and started making panduya.
But is it because of our the society not appreciating made in Nigeria products that we discover that things are invented here, and before you know it, the inventor sells the franchise and we start to buy what we invent?
Yeah. Partially yes and partially no, because the technological environment too is part of it. For you to go into production in this country, you need stable electricity, you need water supply, you need the labor force too, you need the area. So all those ones too, and more importantly is the passion by Nigerian entrepreneurs. I think that is what I see as more lacking. The Nigerian entrepreneurs are yet to pick up. You see, like even this Kenapep, if you remember during the period of D3, there was an equivalent done, and there was a company along the expressway that was producing it, but that company could not survive. We have produced hand pumps in this country, produced by a company in Lupeju. That company could not survive. Instead, we now import from India. So I think the real issue is we looking inward. And I think there will come a time when we have no choice but to do so.
But do you think that as an AGRIC engineer,
Yes.
we have what it takes to be an inventing and exporting nation and not just a consuming nation?
Definitely. We are saying the same thing. Look, I've had the privilege of being an external examiner in many universities as well as polytechnics, in AGRIC engineering departments and civil engineering department. And I've seen the inventions of young Nigerians, brilliant ideas that could make us to be top class in the world. But then, like you said, it ends up in the library. It ends up on the shelf. And I think the federal government also created an organization based in Abuja now to aid that kind of industry. But it has not picked up. I'll just give you one little example which you can understand. Drilling rig is not our invention to drill borehole. People know about drilling rig, drilling borehole. But all the rigs imported to Nigeria were having problems. At the National Water Resources Institute of Kaduna, we made the research and discovered the 3 components that was giving us problem. And we made a protocol, a new design, prototype of it, and gave it to this organization now for Nigerian entrepreneurs to pick it up and make it our own, so that in fact, the whole of Africa will be too happy because our similar terrain. But before we knew it, nothing was happening. We went through the processes. The next thing we could hear was that some Indian company now came about 3 or 4 years ago, saying that they incorporated into their own rig, and that won't selling the rigs now. So if India can come in and pick our idea, why couldn't we have done it ourselves? And as chief executive of National Water Resources, so I struggled to make that project a reality. But then the bottleneck of entrepreneur picking it up was there. And as a government official, I cannot be running after industrialists. I think you have the hidden agenda.
Okay, Jacob calling us from Ajero. Jacob, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
How are you, Jacob? Please, can you...
Fine, thank you, sir.
I'm sure you want to ask my guests some questions, but first of all, can you answer our question?
Yes. The question I want to ask is that, how about somebody from Department of Chemistry? Is it possible for such a person to still study engineering, AGRIC engineering for master's? Yes. Is it possible for that person to study AGRIC engineering for master's?
All right. My guess.
And the answer to the question, sir.
Okay.
The answer is, I don't know if I get the pronunciation correct, but it's ERMI. So I don't know if it is semi or semi or semi.
All right, we'll let you know if you have answered us correctly. But let me say this, that our questions are basically for secondary school students or undergraduates. If you are not in that category, I'm sure you are not going to get our prize. So thank you very much for calling. But my guest would do justice to your question.
Answer the question I asked, right?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, God bless you.
Right, he wants to know if...
No, you cannot, by the Nigerian system, you cannot cross over from chemistry to engineering, because you will have lacked the basic things needed. Whereas we engineers study chemistry in order to make our engineering better. You have not studied the basic material science, basic structure of materials, basic strength of materials that will make you to understand what it takes. So, and the profession does not encourage it. But in other countries, just like I studied in the US too. In the US, you can make a radical change from one profession to another. But you have to go through the fundamental. They have a way of making you do all those courses that are fundamental. So you spend extra years, but you still get there.
All right. So to the person, he has to go back,
yes,
and do the undergraduate.
Those undergraduate courses that he needed to be able to do
before he can now
continue.
That is interesting. Okay, another call. Malik. Good evening, Malik.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Fine, sir.
What question do you have for our guests?
Yes. How in Nigeria, are there still machines that use for promoting agriculture that can increase the rate of agriculture in Nigeria?
Machines that can do what?
Like passing the rate of production in Nigeria.
Okay.
I didn't get it. Machines that can do packaging?
That can do more packaging of agricultural produce in Nigeria.
Yes, there have been some developed, like I have said, and they are available, but at a macro level, at the level of the University or Polytechnic. That's what I said. I've seen Polytechnic that have discovered some machines that they put scrap material together, just like you see inverters outside. But now to turn it into reproduction, maybe. But it's available. It's available.
All right, and one thing about my guest for today is that he had his master's degree in irrigation and drainage engineering, and we'll be talking about that a little bit. Now, this kind of engineering, arm of engineering, do we have universities in this country that where someone can study now?
Yes, you know, in fact, almost all the universities that have agric engineering courses also make people to do specialize in irrigation and drainage engineering. And what interests me about it is that irrigation engineering is also the subject of the future, because that is what we need to be able to feed ourselves. There is no need for irrigated agriculture for us to feed ourselves. That is what is making California farmers millionaires and able to produce almost 10% of what's full requirements. They are engaged heavily in irrigation practices.
So to the layman, what does it mean to have irrigated farming?
Okay. What it means is that now we do our farming in Nigeria during the rainy season because we expect rain, and if rain doesn't fall, like this year where we had scatter, everybody started shouting and praying. In irrigated agriculture, you can plant, you already know the seed will need 90 days of growth, and they need certain quantity of water. What irrigated agriculture does is to get the water prepared and pick a period that you want, and you can plant that plant during that period. More importantly, in this part of the country, the dry season is a good period to practice irrigation engineering, because at that period you can produce crops with less pesticides, less insects, and they will grow faster. And the weather is to our own advantage. So to me, it is something that we need to do. While I was in Ife, right, I encourage supplementary irrigation during summer.
We have another caller. Sulaiman, calling us from Lagos. Sulaiman, how are you?
I'm fine.
Can you speak a little bit louder? Any question for our guest for today?
Yes. You know, I want to ask that how can engineering impact better on agricultural sectors of Nigeria?
How can engineering impact
yes,
on agricultural sector in Nigeria?
Yes, yes.
All right. He has been saying that all along, but okay. Do you have any answer to our question?
Yes, I have.
Okay, what's the answer?
The answer is semi.
The answer is what?
Semi.
Can you spell that?
SERMI.
Okay, we'll let you know if you got it right. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. I'll let you know if you are the winner or not.
Okay.
All right. Before we go, because our time is running so fast. Now, how can subsistence, because most of our farmers are not people living in the rural areas, yes, and they don't have this knowledge of irrigated farming. What can we do as a nation, as a society, to ensure that this technology gets to them and they know what to do about it?
I think it's purely what we call extension education, and it's part of agricultural courses. They have rural and extension departments. We need to educate these farmers. Let me give you one area. In planting maize, you know that they have to bend down and be putting corns. But there was a time in Ife where one of our professors developed a jam planter. You just stand straight and just palm as if you are on a walking stick. But most farmers will not know about it unless you have extension officers. And that one doesn't even require any major production. It can be done by any local mechanic. And it will help them to plant any seed faster. They even have it with a fertilizer component on it. That's part of agric engineering, encouraging agriculture. So the irrigation one, it is a matter of making our farmers realize they can produce rice in 3 sessions in a year rather than 1, or corn in 4 rather than 2. You know. So once they know that and they know what does it take, you say, just getting the water across and making this period to be available. And I think that will help.
All right. Our time is running so fast. But before we go, I would like to give us the answer to our question for the week. We have winners. We have a winner already. And our answer is FEMIS. F-E-R-M-I. FEMIS. And the person that got it correctly is Sulaiman. He called us from Satellite Town in Lagos. So Sulaiman, I'm sure you are watching us. Just call this number 0703 1611497. 0703 1611497 and claim your prize, courtesy Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilon. And for our conversation, which will continue on social media, for the question of the week, you can take this down. Brightness of bulb depends on voltage or current. Which of the two? Or which is which? Brightness of bulb depends on voltage or current. The conversation continues on Facebook at Ogtv and on YouTube, Ogtv Abeokuta. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my guest, Engineer OLUSANJO BAMGBOYE. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
It's a pleasure coming.
He's one of the first sets of agric engineering students in Nigeria, and I'm glad to have him on the set. Now, if you want to see another engineer that would educate us, inform us, and give us what it is, join us same time next week on Engineering and You. My name is Tunde Olaniran. Until next week, I say bye-bye.